Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm making a Hemostat Flower shirt. My shirt has been washed, dried, soaked in soda ash, and it was wrung out so it's just barely damp. I've also turned my shirt inside out. I'm only going to put my flower on the front of the shirt, so I need to isolate the front of my shirt. So to do that, I'm going to fold my shirt in half, then use a washable marker to mark the bottom and the top of the middle of my shirt. Then grabbing both of those marks, I'm going to lift my shirt off the table, gently shake it, and lay it back down. Then I'm going to fold my shirt in half, just quickly to kind of get an idea where the middle of my shirt is, and use a washable marker to make a mark above the middle of my shirt. I want the center of my flower not to be in the middle of my shirt, but a little bit above that. Then I'm going to put my thumb on that mark, take the bottom of my shirt, fold it up, and the top of my shirt and fold it down. Then I'm going to pinch this seam and fold my entire shirt in half. After I straighten all my folds out, I'm going to fold each side back one more time. Using my washable marker again, I'm going to find where the neck of my shirt is and make a mark up there so that I don't go past that area when I'm tying my design. Toward the end of my folds, I'm going to make a mark where I'd like the center of my flower to be. Then I'm going to tie this line up with some sinew. And I like my center of my flower to have more definition, so I usually tie some sinew lines that are diagonal going down to the end. Then I diagonally bring the sinew back to my original line, but I generally don't wrap those sinew lines really tight. When I get down to my original sinew line, I do a couple wraps and then cut my sinew off. Now for this design, I'm going to use various sizes of hemostats. My hemostats, I've taken heat shrink tubing, and I have put it on the ends so that when I clamp my hemostats down on the shirt, they won't damage the shirt. Hemostats have the grippy teeth, and if you don't coat them, people have had issues with them ripping holes in their shirts. I personally have never had this problem, but I've heard of other dyers who have. So I just go ahead and coat the teeth of most of my hemostats so that I don't hit that problem. Every row of hemostats that I put on my shirt is going to be petals. So for this shirt and this flower, I'm going to have 3 rows of petals. The first petals I'm going to use the curved hemostats for. The second row of petals I'm just going to use straight hemostats. And the third row is going to be curved hemostats again. You can use as many or as fewer rows of petals as you would like. For the rest of the shirt, I'm going to scrunch it up and use some rubber bands to hold it in place. Because this is a pretty thick fold, I'm going to put my shirt aside and let it dry out really well. I personally like to dye these kinds of folds when they're dry. I find that if a shirt is too wet with soda ash, the fibers are not as eager to soak up the dye as they are when the shirt is dry. If the shirt is dry, the dye just kind of wicks down into the fibers. However, when it's wet, the fibers are already full of soda ash water, so it's not as eager to wick that dye down into the fibers as it is when the fibers are dry. So for thicker folds like this, I personally prefer to dye them dry. For this shirt, I have a variety of colors that I already have mixed up. I don't particularly like any of them in their pure form to go on this shirt as a flower, so I'm just going to take and mix them up in various combinations until I get the colors that I want. Today I'm using Spanish Carmine from Custom Colors and Iris from Pro Chemical and Dye. I'm going to mix them in various ratios until I end up with colors that I like. I've put a paper towel up next to my shirt, and I'm just going to test my colors on a paper towel. If you'll put just a little squirt of your dye out onto a paper towel, it'll give you a pretty good idea of what your color is going to look like once you get it on your shirt. For the center area of my shirt, I'm going to use a color that's mostly Spanish Carmine with just a little bit of iris in there. And I've put my colors down inside of 1-ounce needle tip bottles that I purchased from Amazon. I'll leave a link to where I got them in the description down below. I like to use these bottles for designs like this because I have more control over my dye and where my dye goes. Then for the petals of the flower, I'm using a combination of probably 2/3 iris to 1/3 Spanish Carmine. Then up next to the hemostats on the second and third row of the flower, I'm going to mix up a color and put just one small line up next to those hemostats of probably half Spanish Carmine and half iris. Then for the scrunch portion of the shirt, I have Dharma's Razzle Dazzle and Custom Colors Steel Blue Gray mixed up. So I'm going to take and use a combination of about 50-50 of each of those. And then I'm going to use the Razzle Dazzle in its pure form too. Then after I'm finished dyeing the back side of my shirt, any of the colors that I used on the petals are up next to the hemostats. I'm just going to put those on the shirt too, along with any of the iris that I used to mix with. I don't know about you all, but I absolutely hate to waste dye. So if I can mix my colors and get another shirt out of any leftover dye that I have, that's usually what I try to do. That way I can just mix my own colors for a shirt and I don't have to waste my dye. I'm trying to saturate each of these areas really well, but I'm fully aware that as thick as this scrunch portion is, I'm probably going to have quite a bit of white left in it. But that's okay, I don't mind that too bad. But on the petals and the center portion, I'm going really slow and applying some dye to those areas, then going back and reapplying dye until it seems like it's no longer accepting the dye and those areas are fully saturated. I don't want any white areas left in the middle portion of my flower. Now I'm going to gently turn my shirt over so that I don't disturb the hemostats and do the same pattern on the back side of the shirt. Alright, so here is what our flower ended up looking like. If you guys are enjoying watching my videos, I sure would appreciate it if you'd hit the big red subscribe button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.